Troy Donahue talks about the two gay actors from old Hollywood that he dated in secret. Troy Donahue was born Merle Johnson Jr. on January 27, 1936 in New York City. He grew up in a wealthy family. His father worked as a business executive and his mother was a stage actress. Donahue loved performing from a young age. He studied journalism at Columbia University, but soon moved west because Hollywood was calling him. Donahue got his big break in the late 1950s when Warner Brothers signed him. They gave him the stage name Troy Donahue, a name that would soon be seen on movie posters and teen magazine covers all across America. His first big role was in A Summer Place in 1959, where he starred opposite Sandra Dee in a dramatic story about young love and family problems. The film was a huge hit, and Donahue's dreamy, gentle personality as the sweet romantic lead made him an instant heartthrob. His character's relationship with Dee's character, with parents who didn't approve and lots of emotional drama, really connected with young audiences. The theme song became just as famous in pop culture as Donahue himself. Throughout the early 1960s, Donahue's fame kept growing. He appeared in many successful films including Parish in 1961, Susan Slade in 1961, Rome Adventure in 1962, and Palm Springs Weekend in 1963. These movies often cast him as the noble, quiet romantic guy, sometimes troubled, always attractive. His on-screen image matched perfectly with what people thought the ideal young man should be like during the Kennedy era's hopeful time before the Vietnam War. At his peak, Donahue got more fan mail than almost any other actor at Warner Brothers, and he was often featured in Photoplay, Teen Beat, and other fan magazines that helped make him even more popular. However, fame was hard to keep as things changed in the late 1960s with the rise of more serious and realistic movies. Donahue's clean-cut image started to feel old-fashioned. Hollywood began choosing a new type of anti-hero and more complex, troubled characters, roles that didn't fit with Donahue's established screen image. Job offers slowed down and his popularity started to fade. He struggled to reinvent himself both professionally and personally during a time of huge changes in the entertainment business. The pressures of being famous combined with personal problems led to a decline in both his career and his health. Behind the glamour, Donahue faced serious personal demons. He battled alcoholism and money problems during much of the 1970s and 1980s. There were times when he was homeless and living out of his car, a sad reminder of how quickly fame can disappear. Yet through it all, he stayed honest about his struggles, eventually getting sober and turning his life around. Donahue started going to Alcoholics Anonymous and found a new sense of purpose and peace. His honesty about his journey earned him admiration and respect, especially from fans who had once idolized him as a teen heartthrob and now saw him as a survivor. In later years, Donahue experienced a small career comeback. He appeared in guest roles on TV shows like The Love Boat, Chips, and even had a funny cameo in Crybaby in 1990, John Waters' playful tribute to the 1950s. These appearances allowed Donahue to embrace his past with a sense of humor and dignity. He also stayed a popular guest at nostalgia conventions where he met generations of fans, many of whom shared stories of how his films had touched their lives. His lasting charm, self-deprecating wit, and humility in the face of hardship only added to his legacy as not just a movie idol, but as a genuinely likable human being. Troy Donahue, one of the most famous movie idols of the late 1950s and early 1960s, lived a life that was just as complicated off-screen as it was glamorous on-screen. Known for his striking good looks and brooding presence in romantic dramas, Donahue's personal life included 4 marriages and several important relationships, each reflecting a different chapter of his difficult journey through fame, addiction, recovery, and reinvention. His first and most talked-about marriage was to actress Suzanne Pleshette, best known for her later work on television, including her role on The Bob Newhart Show. The two rising stars met while working together on the 1964 film Rome Adventure, and their chemistry was obvious both on and off the screen. Their quick romance led to a marriage in January 1964, but the union didn't last long. Within just 9 months, the couple divorced, saying they had irreconcilable differences. Despite how short their marriage was, their relationship got a lot of media attention at the time and remains one of the more talked-about parts of Donahue's private life. It is widely thought that the pressures of Hollywood career ambitions and Donahue's deepening personal struggles contributed to the breakdown of the relationship. Before marrying Pleshette, Donahue had been involved with Lily Cardell, a Swedish-American actress and model. Their relationship ended in scandal when Cardell filed a lawsuit against Donahue, claiming he had physically assaulted her during their engagement. She sued him for damages which made headlines and damaged the clean-cut image that studios had carefully created for Donahue. The incident, while not resulting in a criminal conviction, added fuel to rumors about Donahue's increasing instability and struggles with anger and alcohol, which would continue to haunt him for years. Donahue's second attempt at marriage came on October 21, 1966, when he married actress Valerie Allen, who had appeared in various television and film roles throughout the 1960s. At first, the marriage seemed to represent a fresh start for Donahue, who was trying to stabilize his personal life and get his professional life back on track. However, behind closed doors, tensions quickly grew. In 1968, just 2 years after their wedding, Allen filed for divorce, citing cruelty as the main reason. While specifics were not publicly detailed, the divorce proceedings hinted at a troubled home environment, possibly made worse by Donahue's continued battles with addiction and unpredictable behavior during this time. His third marriage was to Alma Sharp, a woman outside the entertainment industry who worked as an executive secretary. Their union began on November 15, 1969, a time when Donahue was already starting to step away from the spotlight, having seen his star fade by the early 1970s. Sharp was described as someone who offered Donahue a sense of normalcy and stability, something he desperately needed amid his fading fame and increasing personal problems. Unfortunately, even this relatively private and stable relationship could not withstand the pressures they faced. The marriage lasted 3 years, ending in divorce in 1972. Friends noted that Donahue's ongoing substance abuse issues and difficulty adjusting to life outside of Hollywood's spotlight likely played a big role in the end of their marriage. Donahue's fourth and final marriage was to Vicki Taylor, and it lasted from 1979 to 1981. By this time, Donahue had become somewhat of a reclusive figure, making only occasional appearances in film and television. While not much is publicly known about Taylor or the details of their relationship, it is understood that their marriage, like his previous ones, was filled with instability and emotional distance. Their time together was brief, and they divorced after 2 years. The repeated pattern of short-lived marriages and emotional turbulence became a trademark of Donahue's troubled personal life. In his later years, after decades of struggling with alcohol, financial hardship, and fading fame, Donahue found what many believed to be a more stabilizing and loving relationship with Zheng Chao, a Chinese-American mezzo-soprano opera singer known for her commanding stage presence and rich voice. The relationship, though not officially formalized in marriage, was considered deeply meaningful to Donahue. Those close to him said that Zheng brought peace, love, and a sense of companionship to Donahue's final chapter. Their connection appeared to be different from the chaos of his earlier relationships, offering him a supportive presence as he faced declining health and the emotional leftover pain of a turbulent past. Donahue also had a son named Sean, whom he fathered with a woman he had a brief relationship with in 1969. For many years, Donahue didn't know about Sean's existence. It wasn't until later in life, when Sean was already an adult, that Donahue learned he was the father and met his son. The reunion reportedly had a big emotional impact on the actor, who had long expressed regret over many parts of his personal life. Connecting with Sean gave him a sense of legacy and a chance to make things right, even if it was late, for a lifetime of personal mistakes and missed opportunities. In the final years of his life, Troy Donahue, once a golden-haired heartthrob of 1950s and 1960s cinema, began to open up about very personal chapters of his past that had remained hidden during his career peak. While Donahue had always been associated with the wholesome, clean-cut romantic roles that defined teen idols of that time, there was an inner complexity and duality in his private life that never reached the public eye until much later. Among the most shocking revelations was his confession that he had been romantically involved with several gay actors of old Hollywood, relationships kept completely secret due to the suffocating atmosphere of that era and the career-ending consequences that could come from being outed. In rare and quiet interviews conducted in the 1990s as Hollywood began to deal with its history of silence around LGBTQ+ identity, Donahue openly admitted that he had in fact dated men during his youth, some of whom were major stars with huge fan followings. "It was the 50s. You could lose everything," he reportedly said. "Studios controlled your image. They would destroy you if you were found out." One name that Donahue allegedly mentioned with both admiration and sadness was Anthony Perkins, the mysterious star best known for his chilling performance of Norman Bates in Psycho. According to Donahue, his relationship with Perkins was both passionate and full of secrecy. The two met at a Hollywood party in the late 1950s when both were rising stars in the industry. Donahue was the handsome beach blonde being groomed by Warner Brothers as a movie idol, while Perkins was already earning praise for his brooding intensity and sensitive performances. Their chemistry was instant, but they were both very aware of the limitations placed on them by their studio contracts and public images. "We could never go out in public together. We had to pretend. Always pretend," Donahue is quoted as saying. "We'd meet at the homes of trusted friends or drive out to the coast late at night and just sit in the car talking or listening to the waves. There was a gentleness to him. He understood what it was to live behind a mask." Donahue also hinted at a complicated romance with Rock Hudson, the square-jawed idol who was at the time the very symbol of rugged heterosexual masculinity on screen. While Donahue never confirmed a long-term relationship with Hudson, he did recall moments of electric tension and mutual understanding. "Rock had it harder than most of us," Donahue said. "He was bigger than life. If he slipped up, the whole house of cards would fall. But there were times, just quiet, fleeting times, where we shared something no one else could see. We were men who were supposed to be everything America dreamed of, and we were so afraid of losing it all." These revelations were not made for shock value. Rather, they were an attempt by Donahue, whose later life was marked by struggle, reflection, and recovery, to reclaim a part of himself that had been buried for decades. His openness provided a rare, touching glimpse into the private lives of Hollywood's closeted actors, men who were forced to sacrifice their authenticity for the sake of maintaining an image the studios and the public demanded. Donahue's stories are not only a testament to the deeply human need for connection, but also an accusation against a system that punished vulnerability and difference. By naming names like Anthony Perkins and Rock Hudson, figures who themselves wrestled privately with their identities, Donahue was not betraying a trust, but rather honoring the truth of a generation that had been denied the freedom to live openly. His confessions serve as a bridge between the glamour of Hollywood's golden age and the long-overdue reckoning with its culture of silence. On August 30, 2001, Troy Donahue, the once golden boy of 1950s and 1960s Hollywood, suffered a massive heart attack that would ultimately mark the beginning of the end of his life. The incident happened while he was at his apartment in Santa Monica, California, a coastal city he had long called home. Despite his well-documented struggles with substance abuse earlier in life, Donahue had been living quietly and soberly for several years by this time, having committed himself to recovery and a more thoughtful lifestyle. Those close to him described him as being in relatively good spirits and optimistic about future acting projects, even if his health had shown signs of decline in recent months. After suffering the heart attack, Donahue was rushed to St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, a well-regarded facility known for treating many celebrities and prominent figures in the entertainment industry. Once admitted, he was immediately evaluated by a team of heart specialists. His condition was considered critical, prompting the decision to perform an emergency angioplasty, a procedure in which blocked arteries are opened to restore normal blood flow to the heart. The procedure itself was considered a success at first, and his doctors were cautiously hopeful. Friends and family were notified, and many believed he had overcome the worst. However, only hours after the angioplasty, Donahue suffered a devastating second heart attack.